here is what we're going to focus on today. We're going to talk about what cortisol actually is and how it affects your health and weight loss efforts, why this matters for corporate women, women with high stress levels in generals, in our 30s and beyond, sometimes even in your mid-20s, this can affect you. Some common signs of cortisol imbalance, like how to actually recognize whether this affects you or not. And then I'm also going to give you super simple to implement action steps that you can start using no matter who you are, no matter how busy or stressful your life is. There are habits that you can implement right now and start to focus on to actually get your energy back and feel better. So that's what we're going to cover today. So if you don't know me, my name is Sandra, and I am here because not only did I struggle with my weight and my relationship with food for a long time, but I also went through my own cortisol healing journey as well. So as many of you can probably relate, I grew up always on a diet, always wanting to lose weight, always focused on how I could eat less. And I thought that was the way. I thought eating less and working out in ways that are as hard as possible, pushing myself as much as possible, I thought that's what I had to do. It never stuck. It never lasted. I kept losing and gaining the same 20 pounds or more. So I would sometimes get results, but they would never last long. I would push myself for a few weeks and then I couldn't stick to it. So then I would feel discouraged and disappointed and fatigued, and I would stop and give up. And then I would start again. And it just became a cycle for many, many years. I ended up signing up with a coach and got some results, but then I also took it to the other extreme where I signed up for a bikini competition and lost too much weight, which for bikini bodybuilding competitions, that's required. And it was a great mental challenge for me. I learned a lot, but in terms of my actual weight, my relationship with food, it was a big step back. So I was very stressed out. I was underweight here. I had cravings that felt impossible to resist. They felt overwhelming. I was just pushing through. I wasn't really focused on health anymore, which is not great. I started noticing signs of hormone imbalances and only really figured out much later how to deal with that. And I was always weak, fatigued, and sore. So after I was done with my competition, I gained the weight that I needed to gain, but then also more than necessary. And I ended up terrified of trying to lose weight again because I thought that I would slip back into restrictions and having to eat broccoli and chicken all day. So I felt uncomfortable again, but scared to do anything about it. In the end, I decided to give it another shot. And I'm so glad that I did because this is me now. I'm not overweight. I'm not underweight. I am strong. I have my energy back. And the fact that I started focusing on health more than just the look that I wanted made all the difference. So I was able to eat dessert every night. I have a healthy, healed relationship with food now. And most of all, I was very focused on stressing less instead of more. So I established habits that I can actually maintain, meaning that I was also able to include fun foods, not just nourishing whole foods while I was still losing weight. So I share all this with you because I want you to know that I know exactly what it's like to struggle. And the missing piece for me on my journey for the longest time was focusing on stress and cortisol. So if this is you, you've come to the right place. We're going to dive in. So the first question we all need answered is, what actually is cortisol? So cortisol is a hormone. It is your body's stress hormone, and it spikes, it goes up when we're under stress. That is not necessarily a bad thing because in the past, when we would be chased by tigers, we needed our body to react that way. It's still a normal reaction our body has to stress, but what happens is we don't know the difference. Our body doesn't know the difference between a tiger chasing us and meetings and deadlines and social commitments and what goes on in our head. So we react to our daily stressful lives the same way we did when there was an actual threat. And so when cortisol is elevated more than it should be for longer than it should be because of chronic stress, it affects other hormones, it affects our health, and it very much affects our weight loss efforts as well. So some ways in which cortisol affects the body is with hormone production in general. So our body has different hormones. Some that are very much affected by cortisol specifically are progesterone and estrogen. So as a woman in your 30s, progesterone, which is our body's calming hormone, it helps our body calm down and relax. Progesterone starts dropping in our 30s. That's normal. But if on top of that we have high stress, cortisol is produced in higher amounts for longer than we need it to, and it starts stealing from progesterone. So that means that when we already had lower progesterone, cortisol now starts taking more from that production, and we have even less progesterone. So the high stress we already had becomes higher, and our ability to relax becomes even lower than it was before. And that all started with cortisol. Cortisol also affects our metabolism because it makes our body break down muscle more. So our metabolism is faster the more muscle we have, in a healthy way, of course. And then when cortisol is high, we start losing muscle, and therefore our metabolism slows down, and then it's even harder to lose weight. High cortisol also depletes vitamins and minerals, for example, B vitamins, vitamin C, minerals like magnesium, which also helps us relax. So when the stress was already high, it starts increasing, and even taken away from the other substances in our body that should help us relax. So it becomes an even bigger problem, which is great. Now, there are common signs of cortisol imbalance, specifically high cortisol, which is when you have high stress. Most women suffer from high cortisol. It can then also translate into low, but basically, when your cortisol is imbalanced, here are some ways that you can tell. Number one is really stubborn belly fat. So if you've been noticing that your body tends to store fat specifically in your abdominal region, and no matter what you do, like you diet, you eat less and less, you move more and more, you do more and more HIIT sessions, you run more, and the weight still won't budge, specifically from your belly, that is a very, very common sign of a cortisol imbalance. The next one, if you feel like you're fatigued throughout the day a lot, you find yourself grabbing another cup of coffee, and that gives you a little bit of energy, but not really enough. So you're kind of fatigued all the time and surviving on coffee. That is also a very, very common sign that your cortisol might be imbalanced. Now, what feels like a contradiction, but goes hand in hand, is you might also have trouble sleeping. So it's basically this tired but wired feeling where you are fatigued throughout the day, like it's 2 p.m. and you feel like you need a nap. You can't go on. But when it comes time to sleep at night, you either can't fall asleep or you're having trouble staying asleep. So it's both at the same time. The next one is cravings, but specifically for fatty and sugary foods. So you find yourself craving chocolate, sugar in general, fatty foods, and when your cortisol is out of balance, it can feel almost impossible. It's not just like, oh, I'd like a piece of chocolate. It feels overwhelming. It feels almost impossible to resist. And then the last sign for cortisol imbalance is irritability and mood swings. So you find yourself having a short fuse, someone says something and you lash out more easily. You just can't really control it the way you used to or the way you feel like you should. That is also a very, very common sign that your cortisol might be imbalanced. So before we move on, I just gave you a lot of information. Drop a number in the chat. I'm curious to hear how many of these signs do you feel affect you? So for me, when I finished my bikini competition and started noticing that something was off, I had all of these. And on top of that, it also started affecting my cycle. So I had painful periods, irregular periods, my cramps were worse. That is also very common. I had all of them. So yes, I would say if you have 2 or more of these pretty regularly, then cortisol should be something that you focus on. Because as much as this sucks when you have at least 2 of these and you just don't really know what to do, there are things that you can do to start feeling better right away. And we're going to focus on habits that you can implement and lifestyle changes that you can make that are really not, they don't require a whole lot of effort, and they're available to anyone, no matter who you are. So what you can do about it is the number one thing. And if you don't do anything else, this is where I would start. I would start establishing a solid sleep routine. Meaning, yes, ideally, we would like to get more than 7 hours of sleep per night. I almost want to say 8 to 9, but I know that sounds like a lot probably to some of you right now, and that's okay. Just like we don't need to go from not moving at all to 20,000 steps, we also don't have to go for perfection here right away either. So if you usually sleep 4 hours a night, make it your goal to get at least 4.5 consistently, and then see what you can do about 5. So 7 to 9 hours for women, I would say, is ideal, but start with something that is actually doable for you. Now, something that is also very, very helpful when it comes to a sleep routine and actually getting more sleep is training your body to have a specific time to go to sleep and a specific time to wake up. So some things our body is just trained to do. Hunger is a very habitual thing, of course, affected by other factors, but generally we can train our bodies to feel more or less hungry. And it's the same thing with sleep as well. So try as much as you can to go to bed and wake up around the same time every day. It might vary, like for me, sometimes on the weekend it's different, but generally I try to stick to similar times and it will make the biggest difference for you. If you can, if you're already doing those things, another habit that helps is trying to reduce screen time at night. So it doesn't have to be you're not allowed to watch TV, but maybe for the last 30 minutes of your night, you go to bed and you read to start calming your body down, and make sure that the temperature in your room is not too hot. So establishing a solid bedtime and sleep routine is going to make a huge difference. The second one, and this honestly for me was the biggest game changer, is establishing some kind of mindfulness or meditation practice. It could be prayer too. For me, I was told to meditate for the longest time, and I always thought, nah, I don't need that. I fought that forever, for years, for no other reason than just being stubborn and headstrong and thinking I don't need that, which now looking back at it makes no sense. But mindfulness, breathing practice, meditation is going to work wonders for your stress levels and therefore for your cortisol. So with this, just like we talked about with sleep as well, don't go for, oh, I have to now meditate and be in another universe for like an hour a day. That's never happened to me still. Do something that you can actually implement into your daily life. So we're going to do a quick exercise together that is super easy and that you can do from anywhere at any point throughout your day, even for just a minute or two. So we're going to practice box breathing. Box breathing is super easy. I don't know if you've heard of it before. The way it works is just you take a slow inhale for 4 seconds, then you hold your breath for 4 seconds, slowly exhale for 4 seconds, hold again for 4 seconds, and then we go again. So we're going to let's do 4 of those together. I'll count for us. So it's 4 in, hold for 4, 4 seconds out, hold for 4. Let's do that together. Exhale, get all your air out, and then slowly inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 4, 3, 2, 1. Again, inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. One more. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. And done. Nice. How do you feel? Drop something in the chat or unmute yourself. I want to hear. That was just three rounds of the box breathing. Let me hear it. Let me hear it. How do you feel? Do you feel a little bit more relaxed? Okay, we got a heart. That's a good thing. So a little bit more relaxed. There you go. There you go. See, and that was not even a minute. Just 3 rounds of the box breathing, and you're already feeling better. Imagine if you did that 2-3 times every day. Every day. And you don't need anything for it. You don't need any equipment. You don't need a lot of time. It's just actually doing it, right? So that is where I would start. If you already have some kind of mindfulness practice or you're used to doing breathing exercises like these, then meditation, there are great meditations on YouTube. There are apps like Headspace or Calm that have anywhere from 2-minute meditations to an hour long, and they have them for different purposes as well. So there's sleep meditations, there are body scans, there are different body parts that you can focus on. For me, for example, I feel stress mostly in my chest and in my throat. So sometimes I focus on that more. So that is what I would start with. Try to have some kind of mindfulness practice. For example, just the box breathing at least once or twice a day. Now, the third big tip that I'm going to give you is your movement and training practice. So if you are someone who currently does a lot of HIIT sessions, a lot of running, a lot of intense, heavy lifting, fast kind of training where it's not so much for strength, but more for speed, that can put more stress on your body and make cortisol rise even more. So you may want to think about cutting down on that, cutting down on the intensity and the more stressful type of exercise, and instead incorporating walking and strength training where you focus on form and getting stronger as opposed to going fast. Like group fitness classes, for example, can be an example of that. And that doesn't mean that you have to stay away from that forever. But while you're in the process of getting your cortisol under control and lowering it and de-stressing, it is better to stick to walking and strength training and not so much sprinting, lots of running, HIIT training, or exercises like that that stress your body out more. If you're not currently training or moving, then strength training twice a week for just 30 minutes each. You can do that from home. And starting to walk a little bit every day is going to help with inflammation. It's going to help with weight loss, mental health, and your stress levels overall. Another benefit of strength training too is that it helps you build muscle and strength. So that then speeds up your metabolism, also helping you lose weight and get the toned look that most of us want. So I'm going to give you 3 more tips. These I would start here no matter what. If you have these down already, then more things that you can focus on to feel better and lower your cortisol are with nutrition, focusing on having whole foods as much as possible. Now, with that, I am a big proponent of still having the foods that you love just for fun, because the problem is when we try to stay away from that, it never works out. We end up having more cravings, overeating on the high calorie foods, and it just never works long term. So I'm not saying stay away from dessert. I'm saying focus mostly on having big plates of volume foods. Volume foods are foods that you can have in high quantities without having lots of calories. So a big plate of leafy greens like spinach, kale is one, going to give you a bigger portion of food. It's going to take you longer to eat. You're going to feel fuller. It gives you more micronutrients, giving you energy and helping you feel fuller. And leafy greens specifically have magnesium too. So we already talked about how high cortisol tends to deplete your body of magnesium, and then therefore again it becomes harder to relax and wind down. So leafy greens give you magnesium. Filling your plate with lots of colors, so colorful veggies, having some greens in there, some yellow and red peppers, different types of veggies and fruits is going to give you different nutrients as well, and that is going to 10x your energy levels. You would think, oh yeah, I know all this, but once you start looking at whole food specifically, it becomes more of a, I'm doing this for my body and nourishing it. And it's almost like you're looking at food like medicine. And it's a big mindset shift that is super helpful, which then again, in turn, allows you to have the fun foods too. Making sure I don't forget anything. Citrus fruit, because vitamin C tends to be depleted as well when cortisol is high. So citrus fruits, healthy fats, so avocado, nuts, seeds, fatty fish is going to help you a lot. One, because it helps your body absorb nutrients. So some nutrients need fat for your body to absorb them. And it's also a big factor in hormonal health as well. The next one is caffeine. Who here likes caffeine? Let me see. Who's gonna hate me for saying this? Okay, some coffee drinkers in here. Awesome. So here's the thing. I wouldn't say you have to stay away from caffeine completely, but if you do feel like you're under a lot of stress usually and you want to start focusing on balancing your cortisol, be careful with caffeine. I would stick to having coffee only after you've had at the very least water. Ideally, I would have breakfast first. Coffee is not breakfast. That's something I didn't know for many years. I would always be proud of having just coffee in the morning. That's not a good thing. One, you're going to be a lot hungrier later in the day, but also for your cortisol, it makes your stress levels spike too. So with caffeine, have it either accompanied by, I'm just going to say accompanied by food because you should do that no matter what. And make sure you have it with hydration as well. So lots of water. Generally, stick to a cup or two per day. Try to have that in the morning and stop around noon. And if you do feel like you had 3, 4, or 5 of the symptoms and it's been a while and they are really, really intense, I would encourage you to try a week or two without caffeine just to help your body out. Not forever, but temporarily. How do we feel about that? You don't have to give up coffee. It's just, yes, I know, a week or two. Yeah, it sounds like a lot to me as well. So hey, don't start there though. Don't start there. If you have coffee, you love your coffee. For me, it's a ritual too. I enjoy my morning coffee. That is a great point too. Switch to decaf. Maybe have one regular coffee and then switch to decaf after. So as a temporary thing, try it out. Not forever. Now, the last action step that I'm going to give you is supplementation. And we're not going to spend a lot of time here. One, because supplements are something that is very individual, very personal. And I would not tell anyone to take a specific type of supplement without knowing their history, their medical history, if there's any advice their doctor has given them. So it's a one-on-one conversation that needs to be had. However, generally, what you can supplement is magnesium, because chances are that you need more. So a magnesium supplement is generally healthy to take, well researched, and you should always consult with your doctor no matter what. But generally, magnesium might be helpful. There's also ashwagandha or rhodiola, which help your body relax as well. So looking into supplements might be helpful. However, this is the last tip for a reason, because everything else should come first. So magnesium glycinate is good. If you have specific supplement questions, we can dive into those together as well. What questions do you have for me?
I probably need to work on the sleep. I think that'll have the biggest effect. And then also reducing my caffeine intake. Because I notice I go from like I gain momentum with coffee immediately or tea. So it snowballs and I can have like over 4 cups in a day and it's,
Yeah.
a little less.
Yeah. Drop a 1 in the chat if you relate to that. I'm sure many do. I do too. So I since I started focusing on stress and cortisol, I limit myself to 2 cups, and then anything after that is decaf. And I still try to keep it to morning time only. It's made the biggest difference with my sleep. It's made the biggest difference. I used to always be the tired but wired kind of person, and now I just fall asleep and stay asleep. It's great. But it took some work and some tweaking. So yes, definitely let's focus a little bit more on caffeine intake. But then again, if you are like me and you like your coffee just for the ritual of it and also the placebo effect a little bit too, then decaf is fine. You can still
Yeah.
get that feeling without going overboard with caffeine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the question is, why does reducing caffeine but adding it back help? I would generally recommend keeping it to a minimum. It can help temporarily relieve some pressure off your body. So basically, it can help your body detox better and de-stress, even if it's just a temporary change. I would say though, if again, at least 3 of the symptoms that we talked about sound like that's something that you've been experiencing for a while, I would stick to a cup max 2, so maximum 200 milligrams of caffeine per day, I would stick to that for longer than just 2 weeks. We want to give you action steps that are doable. That's why I'm saying a week or two, because you're still going to get benefits from that. Generally, reducing caffeine is still going to be in your best interest. However, if you have it with breakfast and a good amount of water in the morning, then it's okay. Next question. I sleep 8 hours a night. I drink decaf. I eat whole foods. Still have the mental belly. Okay. If you do feel like you do a lot of these things and you are consistent and you don't know what the problem is, you also walk daily, you do strength training, you take magnesium, you take other supplements, and you still don't know what to do because it's not getting you to where you want to be, that is where we need to dive in a little bit deeper. Yeah, the mental belly, and it's mental belly, or even if you're not in menopause yet, just the cortisol belly is very annoying, very frustrating, and very common, much more common than we would think. So here's what we're gonna do for attending this masterclass. Nobody else gets this right now. Is you got your very own free one-on-one strategy call. So Tish, you and I are gonna talk because in order to give you more guidance, we need to have a conversation. I need a little bit more information around what you've been doing. Maybe you have some labs that you would like to share with me. I would love to take a look at them. If you don't have any labs, that's fine. Everything that we just talked about is advice, rules that anyone can follow at any point, and you can start implementing right now. However, in order to actually give you guidance that applies to you specifically, to your journey, your situations, your specific individual struggles, the best way that I can help is by having a conversation. So everyone who's on this masterclass right now gets their very own free one-on-one strategy call. We're going to take 15, 20 minutes to dive into your journey so far, what you're struggling with, what you want to achieve. And I'm going to give you all the guidance that I can to actually help you get to where you want to be. So we'll dive in to your journey, your goals, and make sure that you actually get one-on-one help, because specifically talking about cortisol is just everyone is different and everyone is at different stages of their journey and everyone is going to need different strategies, specifically also when it comes to supplements. That is something that can't be taken lightly. It's a big responsibility and it requires a one-on-one conversation. So book your strategy call. Message me if you need times that are not available on there. I'm sure we can work something out. You get your call time, you get your one-on-one time, so we can strategize a little bit too. Not just giving you the general information, but also tailoring it a little bit more to your actual journey. Any questions that you have, anything that comes up, reach out to me anytime. If you're not in our Facebook group yet, make sure to join. I'm going to post the replay in there. I'm going to post a bunch of free resources in there as well. And, stay in touch, reach out anytime. Thank you for joining today. And I was very, very happy to see all of you.